Anyone new? Welcome. Done yoga before? Yeah? Lots? Little? Not enough? A medium amount. That's a good idea. You say medium amount. It's hard to know what is a lot. What isn't it, isn't it? It's not, in a human life, can you ever do a lot? Anyway, getting philosophical too early. Nice to meet you. Are you both well? Got any physical problems? Okay. Okay, it comes and goes. Yeah. Okay, they're common. Generally, or is it at the moment?
Just generally. It's not too late, but it's usually better.
Yeah. Okay, we'll keep an eye. Stand up. Nice t-shirt. Thanks. I'm trying to look like a yoga teacher. Okay, bring your feet together, Tadasana. Spread your toes. Shoulders down, chest up. Breathing through the nose. I think the tassels are a bit much though, don't you, Jen? It's okay? Too tassely? No? Okay. Thanks. I got a bit nervous there, but you've reassured me. Imagine you're holding 2 shopping bags. You choose the supermarket. Let's just say Infinity Foods. Right. And both of them have got an oat milk of your choice. I usually buy Oatly, the one that's for, coffees, the barista one. And there are 6 in each bag. Right? So it's quite a lot. Right? So just feel the weight of 6 Oatly baristas. Other oat milks are available. And then just add another one in each bag. So you've got 7 in each bag now. Now what happens after a while is, of course, your shoulders get pulled down. But if you don't counter that, also you'll feel a compression in your spinal disc. So we counter that. It's instinctive, it's natural to want to counter that by pushing up. So as you feel a relative dropping down or pulling down, met by a pushing up, and they're simultaneous. And they're relating directly to each other. We're going to add 1 more carton of oat milk to each bag. That makes 8 in each bag. It's too many. The bags are just about hanging in there. I shouldn't have chosen Infinity Foods because they use those cornstarch bags and they're doomed. They start biodegrading as soon as you look at them. So anyway, they're hanging in. And so it's a very strong pull down, which means the trapezius fibers down the neck through to the lateral third of the collarbones. Some of the scalene fibers that come down also to the collarbone area. They get a really, I think, wonderful stretch, but you're still countering it. There's a buoyancy that comes to the pelvic floor as part of the countering. There's breath that comes and goes. Tadasana, as this pose is called, is a pose that has endless mileage and I think tremendous benefit, both from a point of view of what we might call physical health, which is sort of farcical term to a yogi because there's no such thing as physical health separate to, say, mental health and respiratory health, psychological health, and so on. But anyway, in terms of, just for now, we can say physical health, balance of muscles, releasing tensions, and so on. Bring our hands to the prayer position at the heart. This is now called Tadasana Namaskara. So kara comes from the same kri, from the root kri, which is where words like karma come from, and kriya, obviously, and a host of other words that all basically mean action or creation or making. So this is namaskara, making obeisance or doing obeisance, namaskara. Obeisance to what, from what, depends what tradition you're talking about, but a sense here of just surrender to that which is bigger than our conditioned patterned programs and something that knows. It's probably too early, but I'll do it anyway. Klesha karma vipakashayara paramushtaha purusha vishesha ishwaraha is from the Patanjala Yoga Shastra, and it means that which knows Ishvara. you can recognize, because it's something that is empty of the afflictions, unaffected by afflictions, unaffected by time, unaffected by storage. Raise your arms up. Just sort of chuck that in. Raise your arms up. Lightly tone the tummy investigatively. So investigatively, curiously. So explorative. Don't feel like that yoga is a thing that's always existed in the same form for thousands of years. When I was, obviously I look tremendously young now, but I was once younger. And when I was a younger yogi, I read yoga is 5,000 years old. And it's like, okay, right. And so Tadasana, Trikonasana, and so on. Of course, the only evidence for that is the Harappan civilization, and could well have had some practice. We don't know. Can't read their script, etc. But there is this so-called proto-Shiva, which is no evidence that it was anything to do with Shiva. But anyway, a person sitting in Siddhasana, upright on a little throne, some sort of meditative culture. But the poses themselves, what has something in common in yoga is not the poses, but the attitude. So our attitude can be explorative. We can categorize that under Swadhyaya if we want. Fascination. Self-study, it's often translated. Swa means oneself. So explore, try things out, move left and right, see if you can find more. If you understand what the name yoga means, then it's easy. More integration. See if you can find more integration. More fibers of the back coming together. Make sure the neck feels like it's part. Nothing should feel excluded. So earlier on, I was speaking to a really marvelous person, and Francis said to me, who is the marvelous person, that the only thing I believe in is love, ultimately, and it's, love includes, doesn't it? It's absolutely right. So love includes everything. Your neck is part of love. You don't want to exclude, like, I'll raise my arms but ignore my neck. That wouldn't be good. Wouldn't be love. Take a big wide circle. Hands on the hips. Step your feet generously. Breathing through the nose. So the hands on the hips widens the collarbones. Now notice if you've got a tendency to roll onto the outer feet. Before we go any further, actually, make sure your toes aren't turning out like that. Turn them to face forwards or even in. And then spread out the little toe side of the feet. And Barbara and I were talking a little bit and briefly mentioning the fact that we're both Aries, and the Aries star sign seems to be a little bit impatient. And Simon is too. There you go. You can feel the vibe. You can feel the affinity. Anyway, little toes, they take some patience, because often, nowadays, I've tried, it didn't work. Next. Keep going. Never, ever give up on your little toes. And calmness conditions connection. Repetition, abhyasa. And why is it so important? Because calmness conditions connection. We're looking at this word yoga, which can mean connection, from the root yuj. I won't talk more about it. Inhale, lift up from your groins, top of the inner thighs. Lift your chest, exhale, fold over the top of the front thighs, hinge from the hip joints. There's the floor. Hopefully we're going to get to it. Yes, we've got to it. Nearly. Yes. Go wider if you don't get to it. Take your feet wider, further apart. It gets you closer to the floor. So this is Prasrita Padottanasana. Don't go lower, because this is Prasrita Padottanasana Ekam, number one. And in this tradition, we find, there are some common threads, even though yoga's been through many different traditions, Vaishnava, Bauddha, Shaiva, and various other influences. And we find some common threads. And one of the common threads we can trace right back to the Pali Canon, which is purportedly teachings from that were first sort of memorized about 200 years after the Buddha's death. But right back there, the Buddha says spine upright, right? Spine open, spine erect. And then we, fast forward through to the tantras, and we find the sense of the central channel, Madhyanadi. And then we fast forward to Hatha Yoga. And again, this emphasis, very strong emphasis on coming into the central channel, sometimes with force, hence the name Hatha. So what is the central channel? It's what it sounds like. A channel that you imagine running along the anterior front face of your spine that we want to be open. So track it, trace it, feel it. It includes in front of the sacrum, which is the bony plate above the tailbone. It includes in front of the tailbone. It includes the front of the lumbar vertebrae, which are large, 5 large bones. It includes in front of the thoracic vertebrae, correlating to the ribs. And the cervical vertebrae, so the neck. Does it feel like there's space? And this becomes, we get this sort of the body, my body is a temple thing, which can be a bit trite, but there is origins. The central channel is the temple to the goddess, and the goddess is a metaphor for the interdependent field. And again, we can go back to early Buddhist texts to find the Buddha talking about the field in less romantic terms, because he was a bit of a pragmatic sort of bloke. But he talks about the field as the center of his teaching. The field is everything's everything, right? So when you feel the central channel, you're in the middle of everything. That means you're not in anything in particular. That means that the center is also the circumference. Okay, back to fingertips and come up. So that's just Prasita Padottanasana Ekam. Don't come up too quick and bring energy down to your feet so you don't feel dizzy. Walk your feet towards each other and shake it like a Polaroid picture. It's from Outcast. Okay, take a few breaths. Yeah, Outcast, so good. That album, what was that album they did? It was so good. Oh my God. Oh, I can't remember. I'll come back to it. Yeah, you don't know that song. Shake it. Oh, you do know. Okay. Raise the arms up. Breathe through the nose. I really like Outcast. I particularly like Andre 3000. It's very, very cool. I kind of want to be Andre 3000. Anyway, I'm not. So fingers wiggle, tummy tone. Fingers wiggling means you're moving the 3 main nerves that come from the brachial plexus, in other words, from your upper back and around the base of the neck. And those are the median, ulnar, and radial nerves. So they come all the way from the spine to the fingers, and they get massaged and hydrated through movement, like everything else. If you think a lot, then you'll go to bafflement, bewilderment, confusion, uncertainty a lot as well, just in case you didn't notice. Okay, bend your knees, come down, reach for the ground. Oh yeah, you got there. Breathe through the nose. Now, I don't know why this happens to me. I do sort of know why, but instinctively, before I reason why, I want to bounce my bum in this pose, right? Which means sort of lift it up and down and move it left and right. And it's there, I think it's loosening up the back muscles. If your fingers are uncomfortable, it can be useful to go ape. That is to say, put your hands like a gorilla and breathe into that. And so bouncing, we know for a fact, hydrates myofascia, muscle fascia. And that hydration, we know, creates a sense of fluidity that's called in fascial circles, glide, right? And because we're yogins, we know that if there's glide in fascia, it will have a correlate in every aspect of our experience. There'll be mental glide. In other words, the mind won't get stuck on a view, an opinion, an idea. It will stay fluid too. Now, raise your arms behind you as if you're skiing fast downhill, right? And I'm told by reliable sources, that is to say people who've been skiing, that there are little bumps as you go down. And those that have been skiing, you can spot them because they can't help do the little bumps. And the rest of us, who perhaps are too old or can't afford it, can kind of emulate. It's like virtual skiing.
arms forwards and up. Keep the squat. Utkata. Utkata is sometimes translated, I think it comes from the Krishnamacharya schools, but as fierce. But I've heard from a reliable Sanskritist that that's a nonsense and it just means to squat. Utkata. Okay, stand up. Take a big circle, hands to the heart. Take a deep breath. Feel free. Don't impose any limitations on spontaneity. Sahaja, spontaneity, is beyond thinking. Sahaja, the reason I give the Sanskrit names is because the yoga texts are full of these kind of pointers. In Hatha Yoga, it's unamani, beyond the mind. Beyond the mind. So it reminds me, there's that kid's poem, or is it a song, going on a bear hunt and you go through the long swishy grass, etc. And it feels like you're on a journey. And there's something, I think there's a bear at the end, but that's not, they may forget that. This is going beyond the mind, like the long grass is part of the mind and so on. Jaw soft, eyes soft. Okay, raise the arms again when you're ready. Wiggle your fingers. Look for flow everywhere. Now the tummy is also lightly toned, which means it's drawing in and up, and that keeps the lower back long. Okay. Breathe calmly. Do whatever conduces to flow in the present. Okay, so feel the left, feel the right. Stretch up. Look for flow everywhere. Flow is the same as non-attachment, but non-attachment sounds horrible, doesn't it? It's the same thing, but I think most of us are a bit confused by the word non-attachment. But flow we get. Now we're going to come down. And I'm going to ask a really basic, simple question. How low can you go? Just a question. How low can you go? I feel like I should chant that somehow. You come to wherever you come to. Now, the length of the calcaneus tendons is what it is. The height that the calcaneus tendon goes from the calf muscles to the heel bone. If it's a certain length, the heels won't come down yet. Now, if your talus, the bone in one of the bones at the front of the foot, is quite high, your shin will meet it, and then again, you won't get all the way to a squat, and that's fine. And what I'm saying is, it's fine. You come to where you come to. Okay, coming back up, and stations, moving so the body can handle it. Take a big circle, hands to heart. Breathe through your nose. Take 2, 3, 4 or more deep breaths. Jaw soft, eyes soft, brain soft. Now, for what we're going to do next, if you've got a cork block, that's preferable. But if you haven't, that's okay as well. There are more cork blocks in the cupboard. If anyone hasn't got one, maybe you could skip at the back and grab one. Now, those of you at home, you can't get to our cupboard. Those zooming at home, unfortunately, you can't come out of the screen and go to the cupboard. So you might have to use a regular block. So for the benefit of you, I'll use a regular block. But if you've got a cork block, it's fine. And either way, now we're going to face towards this side of the room, and you're going to step the foot that's closest to me and the shrine and the Buddha forwards. The other foot steps back. Okay, so that's simple. Make sure you've got a generous stride across the width of your mat. In other words, take your front foot this way, a bit more. Yeah, good. Make sure your stride's also long enough. Now take your brick block in the hand that's furthest away from me and raise it up. Furthest away from this side. Yeah, furthest away. Just double check. So if I were you, I'd be doing this hand, one furthest away. Still, a couple of people have got it in the wrong hand, which is, yeah, that's it. Okay. I never like to look at people directly when they're doing it wrong, because it's embarrassing for them and me and everyone. Inhale, suck in the tummy. Exhale, extend forwards and down. Now, for most, but not all, coming on the big toe side of the foot's the right place to land, and your other hand goes onto the sacrum, which is above your tailbone. So you're turning towards this side of the room. You got it. You got it. You got it. Now, if it's too low, you go higher. You can use a brick block. You go higher. Too low means that you can't extend the bottom ribs. The other hand. That's it. You got it. No, you're all right. You're all right. It's okay. Extend the bottom ribs. Good. One leg longer than the other as well. Probably. So just to be really 100% clear, it should be your right. If you're in the room here, it should be your right hand that's on the block. You got it. Yeah, now I think we've got everyone there. Took a while, but we've done it. Extend your bottom ribs. Relax if you want. Patanjali in the Yoga Sutra says that the postures should be done in a way where the effort is relaxed. Right? So we might think, I know yoga, but I think Patanjali knows yoga. Right? Wrote the Yoga Sutra and probably part of the Shastra in the 4th century of the Common Era. And the text that he wrote has been super famous and copied and recopied thousands of times. And he says, regarding the postures in 247 and 8, that the effort should be relaxed, and then the yogin transcends duality, which is good. So is your effort relaxed, or is it tense? Are you struggling, or are you listening, responding, investigating? Is your approach to yoga a monologue or a conversation? Bend the bottom elbow a tiny bit. Go ahead. And then re-straighten it, feeling a pull down from the shoulder blade towards the point below the elbow bend. Stretch your tummy from underneath the mons pubis, the pubic mound, which you might think, I didn't even know I had a pubic mound. It's just a layer of fatty tissue across the pubic bone. Okay, groovy, come on up, swap feet, and you're ready for what I call side 2. Breathe easy. Make sure your front foot has been walked across the width of the mat and you're still squared up in the same direction. Good, and you really square up. That's good, yeah, that's good. Yeah, a steep, no longer. That's as long as it needs to go, but the toes turned in as much as you can and the heel turned out as much as you can. Yeah, so you're really squaring up. So your hips want to turn, everything wants to turn that way. You got it. That's it. Makes balance a bit tricky though. But that's when the block comes down, it will help. Raise the block up in the opposite hand to your front leg. Good, you got it. You got it. Inhale, stretch up from the inner groin of the back leg. Inhale, stretch up. Exhale, extend forwards from the inner groin of the back leg and down to probably a big toe side of the foot. Could be a little toe side of the foot. This is called Parivrita Trikonasana. Historically, if we're talking about the usage of the word trika, which is in the word Trikonasana, of course, we come back to around the 9th and 10th century, around the area of Kashmir. We find the trika tradition of the 3 goddesses. But we don't find Trikonasana, right? So these 3 goddesses, Para, Apara, and Para Apara. That's their names. But ultimately the 3 are one. And in the same way, we can see for ourselves that everything's one: the brain, the body, the breath. That's a trilogy that is one. So breathe into it. Soften your eyes. Relax the gluteus maximus on your back leg. If you're not sure how to do it, just try bending your back knee a bit. That's it. Just notice, does it feel softer? Does your mind feel softer? Do you feel your breath opens up a bit? Trying too hard causes disconnection. Trying too hard causes disconnection. Hence, this little Vajrasati yoga catchphrase, calmness conditions connection. Couple more deep breaths just where you are. See if you can extend your bottom ribs a little bit more. So extend your bottom ribs. Go on. I know you can. A little bit more. A bit more than that. Go on. Just 1 millimeter. Just for me, please. Oh, thanks. Yeah. Can't help but turn when you extend, right? Marvelous. Inhale. Come on up. Bring the brick with you. Bring your back foot forwards. You can just pop the brick down for a moment and have a little moment to shimmy, to move around. We're going to stand about the length of our feet and a bit more away from the end of our mats. A bit of shimmying. Right, I'm taking the mala off, so business is about to begin, obviously. Some kind. Raise the arms up and feel into it. There's a certain degree of sassiness that one requires in yoga, I think. You kind of, there's a sort of bold opening to sensual intuition. A bold opening to sensual intuition, which is my definition of sassy. So much so that on the London branch of our teacher training course, they recently, and this isn't anything I've particularly endorsed or non-endorsed, they started calling the school, instead of Vajrasati, Vajrasasi, which I quite like. And they are quite a sassy bunch, I have to say, up there. Inhale, exhale, fold down, hinge from your hip joints. You can bend your knees and probably should, to bring your hands flat as two pancakes on the floor. So you've got two choices, really. Bend the knees or go through tension, tightness, sorrow, lamentation, and despair in the back. So some people have got short legs and long arms and reach the floor with relative ease. But I'm pretty sure that even people who appear to have a lot of range of motion may not be integrated. Integration means there's not a cell of the body that's doing anything other than this. Now, for most of us, there's a lot of cells in the body that are doing something other than this. And we experience those as resistance, tightness, whether it be in the body or the mind or the breath. Our job, our mission, if we choose to accept it, sorry, I just saw the film the other day, is integration. It's called yoga, isn't it? So move, play, and we know that movement and play hydrate and cause glide, and that glide means that we're not stuck on anything in particular, which means we're open to everything. So we go from the particle back to the wave. It's just for anyone who's into particle physics. Okay, step back when you're ready. Adho Mukha Svanasana, the so-called down face dog. And really pad the paws into the ground. Now, it's an interesting choice of name, down face dog, because in a South Asian orthodoxy, dogs are not seen as pure. Now, so what is South Asian orthodoxy? We can call it the Brahmanical tradition. And so the Brahmanical connections with yoga, which there are, of course, Brahmanical connections, wouldn't name this down-faced dog. And in fact, when we go back in history, we don't find it called dog. We find it called a more auspicious creature in the South Asian view. And that is an elephant. So it's called Gajasana. Either way, obviously it does look like a dog stretching. So that's nice. And the dogs stretch intuitively, and we like dogs. Dogs in some South Asian traditions, particularly jackals and so on, are associated with impurity and therefore are embraced in non-dual tantric traditions. So, now the elephant part of it, elephants are super sensitive in their feet. Let's be super sensitive in what would be our feet, which are our feet, plus our hands. So pad your hands, move your feet, move your pelvis. Avoid turning the heels in. I know that some of you got them turned in, and just feel a moment of how much I love you, even if I've just met you, and that everything is love inherently. And feel peace, and then stop turning them in after that. Okay. Heels go back, inner groins go up, back of the thighs go forwards, front of the thighs go up. Don't worry if you didn't get a single jot of that. Doesn't matter. Shoulders then come forwards above the wrists. This is sometimes called Kumbhakasana. Kumbhaka means a pot. And we're moving to make sure we don't grip, grasp, or grab. So moving forwards, moving backwards. It stops an overly quick buildup of lactic acid. It helps maintain fluidity, blood supply, and so on. Okay, again, contextualize these next words. I love you. I love you. Okay, got it? Lower your knees slowly, touch the floor lightly. Put no weight whatsoever through the knees. I love you. Lift the knees up. Still love you. Knees forwards and kneeling position. And of course, if your knees are tight or have problems, put a block or two between the heels and buttocks. It just makes more space for the knee. If your ankles are tight or your foot arches are tight, put a rolled up blanket underneath the front ankles. Breathe through your nose. The pose is called Vajrasana. Vajra is, and people at the Buddhist Center can see a Vajra up on the ceiling above you, on the glass ceiling. In the middle, there's a Vishva Vajra, two Vajras crossed over. Also on the drum behind me, there's a Vajra. Anyway, stylized thunderbolt. Intimating in Tantric Buddhism, immediate awakening like a flash of lightning. But anyway, we could do a workshop on the Vajra. Here and now, just breathe. Roll on your shins a bit. You probably understand that there are muscles on the shins. And we can certainly feel that movement pushes fluid out when there's pressure put on, and the fluid rushes back in when the pressure is released. So moving side to side will put pressure on and then release it. And that will create and bring about fluidity, glide, some melting of extraneous fascial fibers. Fascial fibers are formed all the time. If you're static, then they'll form in that static shape. So you sit in a certain position at work for a long time. And there's a purpose to that, and that's to help support the muscles and bring about tensegrity. But it also can be negative, because Homo sapiens are supposed to do more than just fit in with the machine. You know, we are not evolved to sit at desks or, for 8 hours a day. Okay, release. And we're going to come into one of my favorite poses and one of most people's least favorite poses. So I don't know how that is for an introduction, but we're going to take 2 blocks. In Espanol, dos bloques. And we're going to put them, if you're on this side of the room, at that far edge, if you're at that side of the room, that far edge, and if you're in the middle, over here. And we're going to sit on those 2 blocks. So basically, if you're near a window, put them near the windows. Draw the buttock flesh. Once you're sitting on the 2 blocks, draw the buttock flesh out and back. So this pose, like Tadasana, has mileage, a lot of mileage. So draw the buttock flesh out and back by leaning to the opposite side. So I'm leaning this way to draw back this way. And I'm leaning this way to draw back this way. So there's a diagonal. And the purpose is to bring yourself, to feel that you're bringing yourself to the inner front edge of the sitting bones, the ischial tuberosities. The hamstrings, if they're tight or short or held, will pull the sitting bones under, making the back rounded. A shortness in the psoas will pull the body down as well. Weakness in the back muscles will also contribute to collapse, and sternocleidomastoids, etc. Anyway, hands by your sides. Now, you'll get 2 results if I say this in 2 different ways. So sit up as tall as you can is one way I could say it. Sit up as tall as you can. Right, no, taller than that. I mean, as tall as you can. Don't hold anything in the bank, as tall as you can. Okay, now ease off. Take a breath. Take a few breaths. Okay, now investigate movement of your pelvis. So move it left, right, forwards, backwards. And see if during that investigation there are little moments where the back can escape upwards. So you're ranging around, and at every moment you're looking for opportunities. Like a detective in a classic sort of detective movie where they're pressing lots of different panels to find the secret panel that opens the door. Here you're tapping on every movement to see if there's an opening that comes. And there are many openings. You're not just looking for one. So this is the station I call ranging around. If you get tired and you want to stop, please don't. Okay, not yet. So ranging around, and it's a station you can really play with. It's beneficial because you're hydrating the myofascia of the hamstrings. Now, in addition, there's another station. There are 8 in total. So if you're getting on okay with the ranging around, if you need a break, just try not to worry about that. It will come. You don't need it yet. You'll be all right. The second station is called drop lifting. It's subtle. It's where the thighs drop, like a stone drops into water. And if a stone drops into water, boom, as it goes down, the water goes up. Together. So the boom, the stone goes down, the thighs go down. It's not, you don't push them down. Boom, they're down. And up goes the spine like water rises as you drop a stone into water. Boom. Okay, we'll ease off. I never get an opportunity to teach all 8 stations because by the end of station 2, people have had enough. Okay, jump off your blocks, s'il vous plaît. Place your fingers over the front edge of the blocks, like that. And let's sync up our chests and our heads and tummy. So that's done by tummy in, just practice that. Tummy in, tummy out, tummy in, tummy out, tummy in. So tummy in and ribs up and head back. Now, the more the head goes back, the more the chest should come over. And then you bring your head back level, the chest comes down. And so you repeat, you do the same thing. Tummy in, chest up. And you don't let your head go back without pulling your chest over. And that's how you stop feeling compression in the neck. You dynamically bring the chest along with the head, like they're linked, like a doggy, and I don't like to call them owners. I don't know what a dog and the person that looks after the dog a bit. Okay, one more time. In, up, lift your bum this time. Go forwards, and when we lift up the pelvis, we're going to bring the chest and head together. So up you go. Really commit. I think commitment is an issue for us all. Commitment. So that means committing the chest dynamically to stick with the head. Sometimes we think, I don't want to commit the chest, so I won't let the head go. Commit, let the head go and bring the chest over to support it. If your arms feel uncomfortable or painful, I know. Okay, come down, slow and easy. Yeah, that knocks you out. Cross your legs, make sure there's a gap between the legs and pelvis. Draw the buttock flesh out and back. More than once. Draw the buttock flesh out and back. So this is Sukhasana. Gap there. Palms face up. Sometimes it's useful to pull on the shins to get the back to draw in. Or bring some of what we learned in Dandasana, some of the investigative movement, like a detective checking panels on one of those old paneled houses, paneled walls in an old house, because one of them's going to open the door, but you've got lots of panels that open lots of doors. And you investigate the panels, the metaphor is that the tapping of the panels is you moving around. And asking, like, open here, open, and you'll find, yeah, Little opportunity, yeah, there's another little opportunity to lift without tension. To lift without tension. In other words, to lift with integrity. In other words, to lift yogically. Inhale, lift up from your groins on the inhale. Turn towards this side of the room on the exhale. So this is Pararita Sukhasana. And so you're turning towards either Manjushri, Avalokiteshvara, or Siddhartha Gautama. Breathe through your nose, keep your eyes soft. And pelvis relaxed. Tailbone relaxed. Inhale, lift. Exhale, turn. Keep turning all the way around the other way. Use your other hand on the floor to help give you lightness and elevation. Relax your eyes. Great. So I'm going to repeat that last instruction because at least 7 of us missed it or ignored it or both. Relax your eyes. So your eyes should be as if you were looking at something that made your heart open a bit. An elderly couple holding hands, for example. A squirrel on a fence eating a nut in its little cute hands, for another example. These are things that make my, I go soft. A happy dog in a park. Whatever, I don't know what makes you feel soft, but you find it. And then the face will follow. Okay, return to center. Good news? You want some good news? Lay down. Lay down on your back. You can put the blocks to one side, if you want, and put your hands in place of the blocks. And then you're going to, I think you're going to really enjoy this for the next few breaths without even having to do it. It's just natural. What needs to happen happens by itself. So what happens is you need an impression to release an impression. You use a smaller piece of wood to knock out a larger piece of wood. You use a thorn to remove a thorn. These are all metaphors from the South Asian tradition. So you use a samskara, an impression to remove another samskara. That's from the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. In other words, you use the impressions of the poses into the muscles to challenge the instructions that are habituated in the nerves that are coming to the muscles from the nerves. So you use the samskara to release samskara. You use an impression coming one way to the muscles to release, to challenge the drive that's coming from the other way, from the nerves to the muscles. And in this way, what the nerves are holding is challenged and has the opportunity to release. Similarly, a same metaphor, or a different metaphor, same meaning. Use like a skilled carpenter will use a smaller piece of wood to remove a larger piece of wood. They'll knock out a larger piece using a smaller piece. So the larger piece is all the habits in the nerves. The smaller is just the action of a pose. And from the Tantra, you use a thorn to remove a thorn, which is the same thing, really. You use the very same thing to remove the habituation of the body. You use another action. You use an action to remove the residue of actions. Lift up your feet when you're ready. Let the lower back relax into the floor. So your feet up, knees bent. just notice if if there's been subconscious activation of your front thigh muscles, and you might think, I don't know, but if your calves are moved away from your back thighs, then the front thighs are on, and that's subconscious. No one asked us to turn our front thighs on, so turn them off, and feel your calves are close to the back thighs. Lift up your head when you're ready, and gaze towards your Nabha chakra, the belly center. Now, the belly center is a portal sensation which is full of life. So as you bring either your visual gaze, or you can close your eyes and just feel into it. It's another kind of drishti, or looking. Toes then come down, slow, slow, slow. Just toes, not heels. You should feel that pretty strong in the tummy. Keep the lower back close to the floor. Float up one leg. Breathe. Don't hold your breath. Take a breath. Bring that down slowly. Keep the lower back intimate with the floor. Raise the other leg. Don't hold the breath. Raise both legs. Open the angle at the back of both knees to about 90 degrees. Bring the knee that's closest to this side of the room where all the Buddhas and so on are, that knee and the opposite elbow furthest from that towards each other. They don't have to reach, they just go towards each other. And then turn back, go the other way. Even though there's effort, make sure the effort is relaxed. Like a sort of, like this stereotypical surf dude. And then return to center, head down, feet down. With your deep breath, sigh-like exhales. Really go with it, like just release into it, release into the breath totally. So this is called returning to the source, back to the Adiyoni, the source, the womb. Or the garbha, which also means the womb or the source. There's this big emphasis on returning to the source. What is the source of everything? Everything as a collective. So this is what the Buddha called much earlier, is conditioned co-production. Praticca samuppada. Praticca samuppada means conditioned. Everything's co-created. There's a thought arises. So my thought, is it? Is my thought, and so if it's a good thought, we're like, check out the way I think, Or if it's a bad thought, what we think is bad. Look, I'm so ashamed. I'm not very yogic because of my thoughts. I have negative thoughts. Are thoughts yours? Are they co-created by your upbringing, your parents' points of view? Are they co-created by your society? Do you think ancient Egyptians think the same things that people think now in the world? How many people now think about Ra, the ancient Egyptian sun god, unless they're studying ancient Egypt? Okay, lift up your feet, stretch up the legs, straighten up the legs, and feel free to do whatever's helpful. So sway, wiggle, waggle, move left, move right. Feel into the body, breathe into the body. And when ready, bring one leg down and then lift your head up. It comes about halfway down, maybe. What's important is that you're calm, if you can be. And calmness means that there's a sense of flow that's absolutely allowed, that we can position and reposition. As the late, great BKS Iyengar used to say. Bring the leg back up and swap for the other. Let's call it leg 2. Keep the lower back intimate with the floor. Don't really need to call it leg 2 when you're doing it with bipeds. Okay, bring it back up. Head down, feet down. Let me hear you take that deep breath. I want to hear some sighs on the exhale. It's this sense of giving, letting go, trusting the atmosphere of the upper shrine room of the Brighton Buddhist Center. There's no one else in the Buddhist Center except us. The door is locked. No one else, no riffraff can get in. And the only kind of things that happen in this room are meditation and nice people who smile at you, you know, teachings of the Buddha, which, if not attached to, are useful. Release your hands from behind your head and roll over to face towards the front of the room, which is where all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are, and support yourself on your elbow. And then extend your bottom ribs multiple times. You press into the floor, you lengthen, you lengthen. We're lengthening the intercostal muscles, which are intercostal in between the ribs. And then we do the same for the elbow. We stretch out and do it several times. There's many benefits. One is contact. You increase your contact with the floor. So the superficial fascia gets pressed into, and that helps with the hydration of the superficial fascia near the skin. It stretches, as I mentioned, the intercostals, which can become subtly immobilized. In other words, they can become trapped by patterns that come from the nerves, patterns that ultimately lead to the big bad enemy of yoga, samshaya, doubt. Sorry, I need to bring this to your attention. I just found a golden thread. It's just a marvelous thing to find, so I just thought I'd mention it. Anyway, so doubt is the opposite of a golden thread. It's, you know, it's like a piece of string with a knot in it, you know, but this has no knots. I'm quite pleased with this. So the intercostals, when you stretch them, it challenges the impressions that's been made into them, which are orbit around a sense of uncertainty that nearly every human being carries. I'm right, aren't I? And we carry, even when I ask that question, some of us will feel doubt. Like, I don't know, are you right? And then when you feel doubt, what do you feel? Immobilized. Doesn't your diaphragm tighten up? Our main cause of doubt orbits around this idea that we're supposed to be someone. And none of us really understand who that someone is. We think it's who our parents have told us to be. You should be more this or should be less that. Some parents are like that. Some parents are like, do whatever you want, but that makes us feel doubt as well. I don't know what I want. Great thing is you can undo doubt from its causes, from its symptoms back to its cause. So take some deep breaths, roll around a bit, start letting yourself move forwards and backwards. Start letting yourself really breathe, please, and find sensations that, invite you to take a deep breath. If you're perplexed by the things I say, it's because you're using the wrong tool to try to understand them. You'll never understand what I'm trying to say if you think about it. Because what I'm pointing to here is unmani, beyond thought. Like why a kiss is good. I mean, someone sucking your face a bit. Why is that? It's beyond thought, isn't it? It's a magical thing beyond, it's a sense of self and other merging. That's why it's magical, not because, someone's slightly different colored skin around their mouth where they eat their food, it's sucking on your face. So again, if you think about anything, you're like, don't like kissing anymore. But it's beyond thought. It's something, that you can't contain. That's why it's magical. Why a sunset's magical. It's a great big ball of hydrogen burning, nuclear reactions. Why is that magical? It's beyond. It's the combination of everything together. It points to something beyond yourself. So we're just rolling anyway. Okay, drop your head, draw up your knees. That's all. I'm only going to allow this much time before you bring yourself up. And the reason for that is because I go so sleepy when I do that. I have to bring myself up, otherwise I forget that I'm supposed to be teaching the class. Your feet go to the other end, you're facing this side of the room, wherever you're facing this way, nothing about that's changing, just your feet have changed on the end of the mat. You extend your bottom ribs multiple times to extend the intercostals, both legs are straight. So stretch those intercostals. What is a stretch? What is a sunset? What is a kiss? It's a challenge. It's a habit. Why is it a challenge? Because it's rich. So make it rich. Stretch those ribs until it's rich. Stretch the armpit until it's rich. Rich things are good things. I'm not talking about rich like, Elon Musk. I'm talking about rich like rich, something that's like, I don't know, not everyone, but a lot of people like chocolate, don't they? And if you get good chocolate, some people like chocolate just out of sort of greedy, gorging, kind of shove it down your throat and then you feel sort of bad about yourself. That's one way of eating chocolate. And then there's other people who buy, quite expensive chocolate. They realize they spend nearly half their wages on it. But they, when they taste it, they really taste it, partly because it's expensive. So you want to rush it. And really good chocolate, properly tasted, or really good coffee, properly tasted, or really good wine, properly tasted, or really good sunset, properly experienced, eats you. So roll in a way that eats you. Find a sensation that's like, ooh, things that make you go, ooh. I think it's a song, isn't it? I don't know who it's by. Try and find something that makes you go, ooh. Or And that's the first stepping stone of yoga. There's only two. Find a rich sensation, a stretch, a pressure, a sunset, a kiss, some coffee, chocolate. Light coming through trees, whatever. And then give to that. And then give to that. Giving is done, by the way, via the breath. Via the breath. This is called Laya Yoga. Yoga that melts you. Okay, head down. That's enough. Knees up. That's enough. Come up from the side. I'm sorry to bring you out so quick. It's just because I go so soporific. And then face towards the front of the room. Make sure you're sitting on your mat. Face this way, somewhere along this wall. Just as I am. Make sure there's a bit of mat behind you as well. Make sure there's some mat behind you. And then Ubaya Padangusthasana, if you wouldn't mind. Which is Sanskrit for Ubaya means both. And Padangushta indicates the big toes. Right? So hold both your big toes. You did it. You succeeded in the posture. Some people like to pep it up a bit. They like it. Some people have a tremendous sense of adventure and they like to lean back. It gives them a sense of excitement. And you can massage your own buttocks here, which is quite good because it's quite hard, to ask somebody else. So you can ask them to massage your shoulders, can't you? Or would you just, thanks, all my shoulders are so tense. You can't there's not many people that you can say, would you mind? It's like, it's going to get weird, isn't it? So you have to massage your own usually, unless you want it to get weird. So This is nice. Massaging means hydration. Massaging means a samskara, to remove a samskara. Most people don't realize that they hold tension in their buttocks. Right? Most of us don't realize we hold tension in our buttocks. We don't think of our buttocks in that way. Maybe we don't even think about our buttocks at all. I don't know. Now, some people like to experiment more. They like to raise a leg or even two. That might not be you. You might think, well, yeah, that's some people. That's not me. You might want to raise one. You're like, whoa, it's exciting. The reason for doing anything we do isn't to complete a pose, but is to disappear. Full stop. Or period, if it was American, I'd say period. So trying to make yourself look like a picture, that's not it. You might sort of see you might see in a yoga book, Ubhaya Padangusthasana is normally like this, like what I'm doing here. So you might think, oh, right, I'll do that then. I'll force it, I'll work on it and furrow my brow. This is just, pick the station that you can breathe into. Then you're a master yogi. Forcing yourself to try and look a certain way, you're just continuing the cycles of karma. Which is sad. Well done. Some people even like to surprise themselves and just leave their legs in the air. But most people don't like that. Okay, release. Whew, that's a big stretch. Now, we're going to probably sit on a block, but not necessarily. If we're sitting on the block, instead of having it this way around, we have it skew if. That means the corner faces forwards. Right? How do you ascertain whether you sit on a block or not? Basically, when your legs are wide, if you're not sure if you can lift the lower back, or you know that you can't, either of those two, then you sit on a block. And remember, if you're sitting on the block, the corner just protrudes in front of the pubis. You should just see the corner of the block just showing in front of the pubis. So that's why the block, instead of being like that, is like that, the corner facing straight ahead. That should mean that your thighs are free, but your sitting bones are supported. Turn your toes to face straight up and take your hands like a bear. I've just been listening to Yeti on BBC Sounds. Has anyone heard that yet? Yeah, it's good, isn't it? I've been really enjoying that. But anyway, sometimes they think that people are mistaking bears for Yetis. Anyway, either way, I'd be happy to see either from a distance. Turn your bear or Yeti hands round the other way and fingers onto the floor, and just roll your shoulders down your back. So the shoulder blades go down the back and the chest goes up. And this stretches the psoas if you keep your tummy drawn in, because we're not. Could be any intense sensation. Could be you drinking your coffee. In fact, coffee drinkers are already yogis. They just don't practice for long, that's all. Okay. So they don't do an hour yoga class. They do, 30 seconds like this. Their first sip of coffee. You might be a coffee drinker, but if you're not, you've seen them. They're out and about. And when they have their first coffee, this is the saucer, by the way, and this is the cup. They do this. And then they get on and they're busy again. So that's their yoga practice, that little 20-second window, right? You might recognize that from yourself or other coffee drinkers, Even, I shouldn't mention this, but even cigarette smokers, right? They are temporary yogis, although they really mess up their chances to do good pranayama. Because there's a moment when a cigarette smoker, you might recognize this, does this. Now, for that moment, apart from the rush of nicotine and all that stuff, but there's a moment where they're like, and then the nicotine rushes in and things get messed up. Okay. So what I'm saying is a rich sensation that you give to. Don't smoke though anymore. Breathe into it. Sorry, I feel I should complete that sentence about smoking. Do smoke if you smoke, but really feel it. Okay. And then your lungs will go, ow! And you'll know. Okay, release nice and easy. Brain soft, jaw soft, eyes soft, throat soft, tongue soft. Bring your legs back together. Oh, can you? Oh, oh. And then once your feet are together, we're going to sit back to back with a Homo sapien. Just go for it. Don't even think about it. Just the nearest Homo sapien to you. Doesn't matter who's near. Yeah, you guys could go together. You've got beardy people can go together. You know, people without beards can go together. People, you know, yeah. And if you haven't got a back to go back to back with, result. You can use my back. Come on over, yeah. Top of the class. And then you're going to nudge in. Now, you'll see that we're experienced yogis, and we're going to do what is called the yogi's handshake. So what you do is you get in close, and you lean away from each other, and you really get your sacrums as close to each other as you can. It's called the yogi's handshake. And then you lean back into each other. Now, if you're obviously at home, you might not have a partner to do this if you're Zooming. Sorry about that. But you can do it against a wall with a block against the wall instead, or a bed or a sofa or whatever. Now, the great thing is the more you relax, because at first we've got this sort of, I'm here, you're there. I've got to remember that I'm a separate person and all the rest. But actually, that's a construct and it causes tension, doesn't it? Because we're fighting the deeper reality that we are all one. And I know that sounds very sort of hippie, but hippies, although their obsession with patchouli is perhaps a bit over the top, they haven't got it all wrong. In fact, they got a lot of things right. So breathe deep. The more you take up the support, the more you really lean back into your friend without think, just relax, just relax. Imagine you've known each other forever. You have. You're made of the same stardust. We are made of the same stardust. And self and other is a useful lie. Breath, 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 breath. You can even relax your heads onto each other as long as one of you hasn't got headlights. Now let's just make an effort together. Let's see if we can. You can feel heat there, right, between your backs. We can feel heat between our backs. See if you can search and find where the end of your heat is and the beginning of your friend's heat. Really, really make a proper effort now. Where's the end of my heat and the beginning of yours? Really make a proper effort. And in a while, if we're really making an effort, we start to fail spectacularly. There isn't an end to one and a beginning of another, is there? There's just heat shared. And this exercise, without us really noticing, has melted to quite a large extent the paradigm of you and me all over this heat. It's melted the paradigm of you and me. To the point where when you hear a yoga teacher say, separate from your friend, it doesn't seem to be addressing you. It's sort of, can't be addressed. There isn't a me and my friend. And then the yoga teacher might say it again, separate from your friend. Part of the mind just says no. No. Not nastily, or just, it's like, doesn't make any sense to us. And the yoga teacher might even say it a third time. Separate from your friend. And then we begin to think, oh, maybe he means it. And we might have to sort of conceptually wrench the molecules that are actually one away from each other, which is sort of, I find quite sad. So we're going to attempt to do that now. I'm finding it close to impossible, as the rest of you clearly are. The way I make it up to myself is I put my hand on my friend's back for a moment so I don't have to completely separate. And then I just, and then we said, it's awful, isn't it? It's awful. And then thank your friend. Thank you, friend. Thank you so much. And there's that. We can have this golden thread to keep that. And then you crawl back. If you're on your friend, you crawl back like sort of, I don't go. And then you lay down on your back straight away as a sort of recompense. I often say to people, because you might think it's particularly about that friend's back, that, oh my God, I found the best back in Brighton. Maybe I should offer to marry them or something. But, you would have felt that with anyone's back. So we're laying on our backs. Hopefully some of you at home, the Zoomers, got a chance to feel that, but you would have felt it anyway, even with the molecules of your block. There's a great TED talk with I think she's a brain scientist and neurologist of some kind. And she recounts having a brain hemorrhage that melted the separation between her left and right hemispheres of her brain. And at one point she says, some of you might have seen this video. At one point she says she was in the shower and she's got her hand on the wall and she can't tell where the molecules of her hand end and the molecules of the wall begin. And that's because the part of her brain that separates things out isn't functioning. So when you lay on your back, palms up, by the way, and not too close to the body, legs extended, fully extend your legs. Have them quite close together. Scoot your shoulder blades under if you haven't already, just like a little, and they're under. Chest should be buoyant. Breathing deep. Keep your arms like they are for a sec. But just notice this. Okay. So that's where they want to be. When you press, you can feel they just drift out. And what's keeping them in is tightness there, so we release that tightness. Take a breath or two. Well done. Arms are heavy, so relax the elbow. Sorry, I made you relax too quick. So giving is a super central part of yoga. It's called dana. You might notice, relax the elbow. You might notice that dana sounds a lot like the English word donor. It's because it's cognate, which means it's a cousin. Keep soft. So giving, Question is what? Answer is, what have you got? What have you got right now that you could give? Well, weight. We've all got weight, haven't we? So you can give weight. Breathing through the nose. Just going to press gently, don't have to do anything. Just so relaxed. Yeah. Relax. Yeah. So we've all got weight. What else have we got? Breath. Everyone's got breath, haven't they? So you give breath. Give weight. Give breath and weight. And what else have you got? Thoughts. Give them. Just giving them. Giving breath, weight, and thoughts. When it's not stipulated how much you give, you got to presume it's everything, you know. Totally fine. So jaw soft, brain soft, tongue soft. Now. I don't normally do this. Oh, okay, yeah. And I set up for the meditation after, so it will already set up. Yeah, okay. Nothing to worry about. Wiggle the toes, wiggle the fingers. Feel into the body like it was something new and interesting. Take some stretches, investigative, natural stretches. And bend your legs when you're ready and place the soles of the feet on the floor. Take another deep breath. Roll onto your side, facing away from this side of the room with your knees drawn up and your tummy soft. Eyes soft, brain soft, throat soft. Everything soft that can be soft. Take your own time and roll again onto your other side. And again, everything soft that can be soft. Eyes, jaw, brain, tongue, knees drawn up a little, tummy relaxed. Slowly let light and color filter into the eyes. Take other natural and organic stretches. Perhaps you'll even rub your eyes or run a hand through the head, just stuff that comes naturally to us. It's nothing out of the ordinary. And when we feel ready, we'll bring ourselves up from the side, using our arms to assist our ascent. And we'll face towards the shrine side of the room, where we have an option to affirm the following sentence. It is an option. by saying Om. So affirmation in Sanskrit is done by saying Om. So here's the sentence. At the end of it, if you think it's a good sentence that you agree with, we'll all say, or those of you who want to say Om, will say it internally or externally, up to you. Here's the sentence. May any benefit gained in our acting in this way this morning be shared to alleviate the suffering of absolutely all beings throughout the universe. Om. Much for coming. I really appreciate it. Lovely to see y'all. And so do take one of my green flyers, which are just out there. There's got some news about things. There's a yoga day on the 24th of September. Put that in your diaries if you want. I'll tell you more about it on request. There's a meditation starts in here in this room at 11, which is open to the public. If you ever want to do it, do come along. I plan on coming maybe next week myself. That's it. There's the news. Brighton Yoga Festival's on today, by the way, up at St. George's Church in Kemp Town. I'm teaching a class, Kadine's teaching a class, Helen Kowalski's teaching a class, loads of Vajrasati teachers. If you're interested, you can just rock up. It all goes to charity, the money raised. That's good, I think, depending on which charity it goes to. Thanks, Zoomers. Sorry, I forgot to turn the Zoom off. You've waited, though. Thanks for waiting. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time. Loads of love. Thank you.